The stars are bright, we own the night. The stars are bright, we own. The stars are bright, we own the night. The stars are bright, we own. The Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So, welcome, Rennie.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. We've been planning this for so many months. It's
I
insane.
know it's crazy. It's like all of my guests, you guys are just wonderful in terms of the work that you're doing. And it's just a pleasure to like meet you guys. As I usually say, hopefully one day in the future we can see each other like in person. But now I would love to, you know. So as people are signing on, thank you everyone who is joining the conversation. I want to give a little bio before we kind of get started. And excuse if I'm flustered. Like I said, today has been even down to like the last couple of minutes. Because I'm like, okay, what in the universe is happening? Like, why right now? Like, what's happening? So, okay. So, everyone, welcome to No Better Time Than the Present, which is a online experience where I have a conversation with remarkable patient leaders, patient advocates. So today we have the honor of speaking with Rennie Rankin. So Rennie has lived with multiple sclerosis since the early 90s. In addition to her advocacy work for MS community, she is also an advocate for breast cancer awareness as well as diabetes. She has been afflicted with both of the latter conditions as well. Welcome again. And do tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are, how were you diagnosed, all of that good stuff. But basically, what is multiple sclerosis for people who do not know?
Okay, so multiple sclerosis is thought to be an autoimmune disorder. Although nobody is really sure, nobody knows exactly why it's caused, which is the reason why there is no cure. Because until you know the cause of something, you can't cure it. Although they've made some remarkable strides in treatment in the last several years. When I was first diagnosed with MS, there were literally 4 injectable treatments, and that was it. That was all you had. And the treatments that are offered, they're called disease-modifying treatments, which means basically, usually they're immune suppressants. So they suppress your immune system in a way because what happens with MS is that your body doesn't realize that things that can't determine the difference between, let's say, a germ that comes into your body and your own healthy body. So your immune system is always firing. And instead of attacking a germ or a bacteria or something that enters into your system, it attacks your brain, your central nervous system, so your brain and your spinal cord. And what it does is it leaves sclerosis or scars, which basically, if you think of the nerves as like wires that have insulation around them, so that the impulses can go directly through where they're supposed to go. When there's a scar or sclerosis in the way, it interrupts the signal from going to where it is meant to go. And that's where you get symptoms. So depending on where the scleroses are, on the brain or on the spinal cord, they can affect different things in the body.
Mm-mm. Wow. You know, it's crazy because I know I've said that with maybe the last guest or the other guests that I had. It's just, it's so amazing, our bodies. And sometimes we take advantage of it works and we just go about our business, but we don't realize the whole intricacies of certain things. If this doesn't work properly, the signals that go here or don't go the way that they're supposed to go, it can mess up the whole way of about you as an
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah, I think that the issue a lot of with MS is that a lot of the symptoms are very innocuous. They don't really seem like much. Like I know now because I can look back from when I was diagnosed and I can look back at specific incidents and I know that I was having symptoms in 1991 and 1992. I didn't know there were symptoms at the time, but they are. And they're little things like clumsiness. I mean, not just normal clumsiness, like I drop something. I mean, I drop stuff all the time. I can't even drink. I'm not allowed to drink if it's not something that has a lid on it. Like I have to have a sippy cup all the time. But we had my husband and I were living in an apartment in 1998, I think. And there was this one hallway and I could not walk through the doorway. Like every single time I went to walk through the doorway, I veered off to the left and I stubbed my pinky toe on the baseboard of like at the, on the floor. And it was like at first funny, like we would just joke, like, what the hell? Why can't I walk through this doorway?
Right.
I don't understand. Why is it always like, zoop? I'm zooming off to the left. But I mean, it was so bad that when we moved out of that apartment after 2 years, the baseboard was completely pulled away from the wall from as many times as I stubbed my toe there. Yeah. And then the other symptom that I recall so much was the overwhelming fatigue. Not everybody gets it. Some people are lucky. I mean, I had mono late, so I have Epstein-Barr virus in my system still. Like I always test positive for it. And many people with MS do. There is a connection, they say. Mm-hmm. I mean, but like I remember in 1992 being in college and like so incredibly exhausted. I turned to my friends and I was like, how can you do, aren't you so tired? I'm just so tired. Like I couldn't move my body. It's more than just being tired. It's like just overwhelming. Like I don't know if I can even lift a limb right now. I just need to sit here and like melt into the couch. Like, that's how bad it gets. Like I can't, when I get overwhelmed with fatigue, and I do take medications to counteract it every single day. They do an okay job. I mean, I can tell when I don't take them. Right. But it's such a hard thing to explain to somebody. Fatigue when they have never, like when they just want to say they didn't sleep so they're tired. It's not about not sleeping. It's about just your body is exhausted and your body cannot do anything. Your body can perform the way that you need it to perform. And that's really frustrating, because I'm an active person. I'm a fit person. I like to be busy. I can't work anymore. I stopped working in 2013. I went out for a bad relapse. I thought I was going to be back in 2 weeks. That's what I had done in the past when I had a relapse during the school year. I was a teacher. And I thought I would go back in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks became 3 months to 6 months, and take the rest of the year off. And then finally, like, my neurologist and I were like, and also I highly recommend seeing an MS specialist, not a general neurologist. They definitely have more resources at hand. They know more because this is what they deal with strictly on a daily basis. And so he was like, listen, you need to make a decision because we keep putting it off, but, I really think it's time. I think that your time has come and it's time for you to make some decisions about, long-term disability. And they were painful. painful decisions that were tearfully made. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to make that decision. I loved my career. I would never have left it. I wish I could still do it, but I know that I can't. And so here I am, you know, 7, 8 years later, and I'm doing great now. But it's been a process of learning and accepting, and like this whole new life, new identity, trying to figure out my purpose. You know, those things are you don't expect to have to look at them when you're in your early 40s. I was 42 when I left the classroom. I'm 50 now, and I'm very proud of it, because like when you've done cancer and you've done MS and you've done, you know, diabetes, like I'm happy that I'm 50. Like I am so proud to be 50 years old. And I tell everybody now that I'm 50, you know, it's like my precursor to every sentence. Well, now that I'm 50, you know. But one thing that I really want to say, and it's so important, obviously, if you look at what I've been blessed with, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but really all of these things that I've dealt with have been a blessing, because even though I didn't know what it was at the time, there were lessons that were learned that became very clear after getting through to the other side of the battle. And the battle with MS and the battle with diabetes is going to be a lifelong thing. That's never going to, in my lifetime, it's not, listen, I'm a realist. I hope that it's cured in the future, but I don't believe, I'm already 50. So, you know, I don't think that I'll see it in my lifetime. But it's really important, even if you have a chronic illness, it does not preclude you from getting another illness. And so it's vitally important to pay attention. I mean, I may swim in a very shallow gene pool, but if it can happen to me, all these things, it can happen to anybody. And so paying attention to what's right for your body and what feels right, and your gut, like if something's off and you just like instinctually feel that something's off, then you need to have it checked, because like just because I have MS doesn't make me immune from anything else. So it's like, believe me, when breast cancer came, I was like, really? And then diabetes, and I was like, oh, come on. Do I get a break? No. But like, it's because I pay attention to my body that I discovered these things. And if I hadn't been paying attention, my course with cancer could have been way different than it was. And the way that I handle my diabetes could be much different than it is. So I think that those are lessons that are really important for people to understand, that yes, it's important that you're aware of your illness, but you can't just assume that you're good to go now.
Preach.
Yes.
You know, amen. It's funny because I know I've said this multiple times, that it's so important to know your body, right? And to, if you have certain signs earlier on, it actually does make a huge difference, you know, versus, let's say, that headache that you've had for the last 3 years. Okay, like, so when are you going to go see the doctor?
Yes.
Like, wait, what are you waiting for? Like,
you know who waits more? I mean, not to be like totally sexist here, but men.
They do. Sorry.
A prime example, like, he does not ever go to the doctor. I force him to go to his annual physical. Like, I am telling you that men, and then if they get a cold, they're dying. It's certain death. So, yeah. Walks like a duck.
Exactly. Quack, quack. Okay. But it's funny because you hit upon some interesting points in terms of retirement. I want to like reel that back in. Okay. I think a lot of times people also don't realize, like when they're struck with whatever the ailment is, it doesn't affect them just physically. You know, it's like a whole domino effect. Like whatever you have going on in your home, your household, your career. I've met a lot of people, in regards to multiple myeloma who've had to take, long-term disability. It's so staggering. It's so brutal to some degree, because I think a lot of people who have any type of chronic condition, those who are healthy in our minds, we still want to do right. We still want to live our life despite that. But when the body reacts in a way that is not cooperating, then it's like, what do you do? And I don't think a lot of people really talk about that aspect of it, because if you're in your 30s or 40s, well, a lot of people do, because I know some of my friends, they're like, yeah, I can't wait to retire, so I'm not gonna lie. But besides that part, who really wants to retire? Okay, let's put it this way, especially if you have a career that you love and you can do another 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So let's put it in that way. So, as I said, a lot of people don't speak about that in terms of still being fruitful, if you will, in terms of a livelihood and coping with the disease. But sometimes the disease wins a little bit depending on the body. Because again, if the body isn't cooperating, what can you do? It's like one or the other. So it's the dynamics of that is rather interesting. But I think a lot of people cope with it and deal with it, but we just don't hear that a lot, especially when you talk about people in that particular age range,
Yeah, it was truly, I was in a very dark place. I did not know what was going to be ahead for me. I hadn't yet been diagnosed with cancer at that time. And, my whole identity was wrapped around being a teacher. Like, I don't have children of my own, and I have so many of these amazing young people in my life because of that. And I'm so grateful. And they checked on me often, and they were so aching for me to be back. I was aching to be back. And when I realized that I couldn't do the job the way that I knew how to do it, I wasn't gonna be able to do it any other way. Like, I don't know how to work just a little bit. Like, I go all in all the time. And I was at my desk at 5:45 every morning, and I didn't leave before 6 p.m. every evening. I wanted to provide a safe space for students that didn't have a place to go. Even kids that I didn't teach ended up hanging out and, in my classroom because they knew they could, because it was a safe, comfortable place. I was approachable. And I went through a very, very dark time where I had to figure out, like, I don't even know who I am. And I had put on, 30, solumedrol pounds, which don't come off easily, like they go on. And I just wasn't feeling myself in any way at all, like not physically, not emotionally, not at all. And I spent a lot of tearful, sessions with a therapist trying to work through everything and figure out what was gonna be next for me. And it took a while. I met some friends that have MS and don't work, so we bonded a lot. They helped me through that time a lot. And then I knew I had to find another purpose, so I started volunteering. And at first I was volunteering at the MS Center where I was a patient at the time. I'm no longer there. Then cancer came, and I took a step back from that because I had to be available all the time for appointments and tests and daily treatments and everything like that. So for the last 5 years, I've been volunteering at a sanctuary for senior dogs, which has really become one of my passions. It's a home. It's not a shelter, and it's a very special place to me. And I also became a yoga teacher so that I could help other people. Yoga is an amazing body, mind, spirit practice. It's not just moving the body, but it's also about, it's a moving meditation, really. And meditation is another thing that my husband and I started learning how to do the transcendental meditation method in 2014, right? Just a few months after I was out of work. And both of us have been relying on it ever since. And then it just seemed a natural fit for me to bring the yoga in, because I could already meditate so easily. So most people go to yoga first and then the meditation comes. And for me, it was totally the opposite. And I wouldn't change it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, but as far as the early retirement goes, like, I did catch a lot of flack from certain people who said, like, what are you going to do with yourself if you're not working? You're so young. And I couldn't think about anything except for that I felt like crap. How was I thinking about work? I wasn't. I was thinking about, can I wake up tomorrow and feel better, please? Right. That's what I was thinking about at the time. I wasn't thinking about, I'm too young to not work. I was thinking about, I'm too young to feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at it very differently, even though other people judged me. I looked at it very differently because they can't see. That's the other thing. When you have an invisible illness, people can't see. And I assure you, it is there. Every single day I am reminded. I can't feel from the top of my rib cage all the way down to the bottoms of my feet. I'm neuropathic, and also on my hands. I don't have strength. I don't have coordination. I drop things. I don't feel things. I burn myself all the time on the stove because I don't feel it. So, like, there are so many things that people just can't see that, if you were to see me walking down the street, you'd be like, or if I got out of my car in a handicap spot, can't even tell you the looks, the notes, the comments by other people. It happens. It's real. And it's so unfortunate because I would never do that. And maybe it's because I suffer from invisible illnesses, but I would never, ever, if somebody has a handicap placard or plates, then they are allowed to park there. They've been approved by their doctor. Period. End of story.
I just read an article that the illnesses that people cannot see, and they just assume certain things. Well, okay, you look fine, so what's the big deal? And I actually hit upon that today on an earlier meeting. But who are you for me to prove anything, quite frankly? If I'm telling you I don't feel well, or if I have this condition, then that's kind of what it is. However, we know we live in a world where it's a interesting world where sometimes you have to prove, some people feel you have to prove X, Y, and Z. You have to prove to me that you have cancer, or you have MS, or you have whatever the chronic condition is, because they hear the word chronic, and possibly maybe even that term, they can stigmatize that. Oh, chronic, well, that's not really anything. What's that, like diabetes? What's that, hypertension? Those are still some serious issues as well as someone who has hypertension, because that's stroke related. So, like, what are we doing? So it's just, people are so special, bless their hearts. Until, God forbid, because you don't want the same energy to go towards them. But sometimes it takes help when things kind of reverse the role for them to really understand what it is a lot of us are talking about when we say we don't feel well, this is what we're going through, despite how you see us made up. You know, you don't know what we're going through in the inner side.
Right. And why do we need to justify to anybody?
Exactly. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another thing too, was just coming up with the right vocabulary to explain what was going on at first. Like when I was first feeling symptoms, like to come up with the words that accurately described what it was that I was feeling was another whole lesson in itself. Just woke up one morning with a weird feeling like in these two fingers, and I just kept rubbing them together and going, this feels really, and I just kept doing this to everybody. This feels weird. Like I couldn't explain it. It just felt weird. And then it traveled, and it eventually made its way through my whole hand, my arm, my left side of my face. It was like if you cut a line down my body, my whole left side was affected with this like tingly, numb, but painful, like my skin was too tight, and like pins were poking me from the inside out. Like it was just really hard to come up with the right vocabulary to explain to the physician what I was feeling, you know. And that's another lesson in itself, that you have to be very precise with your words and really think about what does it feel like, so that I can get this person to understand. Because if I have the right words, then the answer will come easier, you know?
It's true. And sometimes the answer doesn't come easier, because sometimes you may get a doctor who just doesn't know, or who's not the specialist, which I guess we can bounce back on to the quality of care, the point that you make.
After I finished treatment for breast cancer, that's when I really started to feel like this guy is not listening to me one little bit. The dictation became lazy. I could see it because I could log on to the patient portal and read stuff. And I'm like, it says that we had a conversation about exercise. Like, I'm the last person you have to have a conversation about exercise with. I do it every single day.
Right.
So I decided I would call the top person on my short list, and I thought I would have to wait a long time, and I did, and I waited a long time. And I have since left my old specialist, and I've been with the new one, who has been absolutely amazing. He listens to every single word I say. He works with a medical scribe, so he's fully focused on me, and the scribe takes all the notes.
It's funny because I think when it comes to the doctor-patient relationship, I think a lot of people, you have different types of patients. You have those who don't want to, okay, let me not mess with what I got going on over here. You know, it's not the best, but I'm going to just go with the flow.
It's good enough. That's what I can, it's good
right,
enough.
Right. Like, you really have to, this is where, which this is a preach a book of it. This is like where the advocacy comes in. Like, you are good enough to get quality care. So you sitting there and a doctor doing foolishness, and you just kind of, well, okay, well, I'll come back in 6 or 3 months, and, you know, we'll go through this again. And I'll try to write down, which you should always write down, you know, whatever you have going on. So that way you have time to spurt it out before they run next. Because what people have to realize as well, especially in the, you know, the United States, healthcare is a system. And unfortunately, we don't have the, allowance, I know there's a better word, in terms of having a doctor stay 1 hour to hear you talk about my foot hurt, my butt hurt. I had an itch in my back. They don't have time for that. So we know it's a short time limit. Like you're lucky if you get a good 20 minutes, to be honest with you, 20 to 30 minutes. Yes. But you have to use that time wisely. Like if you know that you're already in a bind, if you have a chronic condition and okay, you're seeing your doctor, you should have a list, a check mark of what it is you need to talk about. Like even with my doctor, like my doctor is, you know, well regarded and all of that, but we do this, okay, because I need you to know I don't care about the patient in the other room. I kind of do, but not really, because I have you for the time that I have.
My time, yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I do have to reel him back in when he's ready to click that door to open. Once he steps out, it's a wrap. Then the conversation is with the nurse and who's also, you know, together. Because sometimes we get more of our, full details and to really go over the full assessment of what we have going on with our nurse. However, I'm trying to talk to you, doctor. So you dare touch that door. Like, and it's okay for you to be vocal. And a lot of people, for some reason, they're scared. They are afraid to have these open conversations with their physician. I don't know what that's about, but I have a thing. I don't know, maybe that'll be an episode that I do in terms of that. Because I also think it's like an age issue too with some people. I think maybe not all. I always start with not all, but I think sometimes older patients, oh, I don't want to mess with anything. This my doctor and that whole thing. But a lot of doctors screw up too. And sometimes I feel like maybe the more younger ones, again, not all. So don't hit me up, people, with stuff that I'm saying.
He's not generalizing everybody.
But I think there's like definitely a vocal thing where some, they don't want to say certain things, and not always the case, you know, not always the case, but it's so important. Like,
it's very important, because I know, like, when I finished treatment for breast cancer, the treatment that I was on for MS had stopped working, and I had some new activity on my MRI. And that's always like the thing that makes them say, okay, it's time to switch to something new now. And he wanted to switch me to something that I'm never going to take. I can tell you right now, it's a therapy that I won't take. I do my research, and I'm not talking about, like, this. I tell people all the time, like, you don't get your news from Facebook. If you want medical answers, you go to clinicaltrials.gov. You go to peer-reviewed medical journals. I have my master's in library science, so I can find where the good articles are at that I should be reading for myself. And I had done plenty of research, and I knew that I was not going to do that treatment. And I said, well, I don't want X, I want Z. And he said, well, we don't do Z here. And I said, yes, you do, because I used to volunteer there before I started volunteering with dogs. I said, yes, you do. If you don't want to give it to me, I'll go somewhere that will. And then he was like, oh, okay, all right, we'll get you Z. But, like, he was really...
Why do you even have to go all the way over there? Like, if you know that you have it, you know, just give me what I'm asking you. If you know, if I fall in that category to take it. And that's kind of where, again, being vocal. And it's vocal, and then it's a respect issue as well, because I've said this multiple times. I think a lot of doctors respect you even more when you give a little pushback, or you come into the office well versed in terms of your condition or what other treatments are out there. You know, like you're going, this isn't like you going to shop, right, getting a loaf of bread. Should I
Right.
get this one or should I get that? You, like, this is your life. You can't just go with the flow. Like, this is something you really have to be involved with. So I think a lot of doctors, from my experience, I think there is a respect level when you come knowing certain things. Like, oh, you know about that treatment? Like, yeah, I know. So why didn't you tell me that?
Yeah.
But, you know, why are we doing this all over the place? Just come with it and what's happening. You know,
It's not like he didn't. It's not like he didn't know the kind of patient I am. Like, I have a notebook that I take to every doctor's appointment.
Okay.
It has a folder in it where I put my prescriptions for things that need to be done coming up. You know, I bring it to every single doctor's appointment, and every single appointment I write down what my blood pressure was, what my questions are, what the answers are, what the solution is, what we're going to do going forward. And like we had, I mean, for years, we had conversations about different treatments coming down the pike. And that's what we talked about. And so for him to say to me, well, you're going to go on this treatment, for me to say, no, I'm not doing that. I want this. It was a big thing. And for him to like even question me that way, that was, right. So it gave me like a little bit of gumption to be like, well, wait a second. No, you do it. I know you do because I've been here, you know, as on that side of the desk, and I know that you do it. So if you're not going to do it, I'll just go somewhere else.
So what would you wish people would stop telling you when it comes to what you can and cannot do based on this stage of your life?
I wish that people would stop telling me that I pick and choose things willy-nilly socially. So I've always had, with MS, I've always had an issue with crowds because I have balance issues. So I have a very wide-based gait. And so I always have to look down at my feet because I can't feel them. And so anytime somebody is like, oh, why can't you just come into, you know, New York City and do this, that, and the other thing and walk through like, you know, Central Park or whatever. Well, I don't do crowds. Those kinds of experiences are not ones that are comfortable for me. To be in a crowd is basically a panic attack waiting to happen. I didn't make antibodies from the booster or the vaccination. I had to have antibodies injected into me. So I had a treatment that helped me grow some antibodies, which is probably waning at this point, and so I'm due for another. So now it's time for me to start being a little bit more careful again and be just outside doing things. Like we have a wedding this weekend and I'll be wearing a mask because it's indoors and I need to be careful because, you know, it's fine if somebody else gets COVID. It's not going to be the same as it is for me. Like, you can think whatever you want to think about me, but my comfort level is what's important. And if I'm not comfortable, I'm 50 now, so I'm not making any excuses. See, there I go. I'm 50, so I can say.
You're so proud. You go, girl. It's funny because I love this interview with you because you actually hit on two other questions. So you kind of like answered some things that I was going to ask you. So that's even better. But at this, okay, so what are your parting words that you would like to tell those who are newly diagnosed? Because as I always say, I think with each episode, the newly diagnosed is a special breed because just like us, like when I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, you with MS, like it's a tricky time because you have all of these different thoughts in your head as to how is this going to go? Is this going to be a positive experience or a negative experience? And I think a lot of people newly diagnosed automatically think a negative experience. So what parting words would you say to them?
Well, with MS, I think a lot of people misunderstand what it is. They think that, and it's kind of like it lulls you into a false sense of security because you relapse. Most people are diagnosed with relapsing and remitting MS, which means that they have a relapse and then they go into remission. Mm-hmm. And when they're in remission, they think that everything's gone and it's done and it's over, but it's still there. Like even I was that person. Like when I was first diagnosed, I was going to be the one person with the clinically isolated syndrome that just had this one episode and then everything went back to normal and I'll be back to my old self again. But that's not how the real world works. And now we're lucky because we have so many resources at our fingertips. Like it's not like you have to go and do research in a library, you know, or take books out from the lending library at the MS Society, you know. You can actually read about, you know, your condition. And I would say that it's important to read, like I said before, reliable sources. So we're not talking about like some, you know, something politically leaning that's posted on Facebook or something like that. You know, you want to read, you know, go to the MS Society, the MS Association of America, the MS Foundation. There are many different like nonprofits dedicated to MS that have good resources on their websites. Clinicaltrials.gov, like I said before, if you want to check out treatments that are coming along. I never, ever undervalue reading a personal blog. If you connect with somebody, you like their story, to read their blog and see how they manage life with MS or with whatever condition. I have a blog and it has been inactive for a little bit because with COVID, I used to publish every week, but then with COVID and I couldn't do anything or go anywhere for like 2 years, I didn't really have much to write about because I was just like sitting at home and, you know, doing yoga 6 times a day and meditating all in between. So it's like I didn't have a lot of stuff to write about. But I am going to get back to it once I get some more normal back in my life. But like if you connect with somebody, reach out to them. Like I have a public profile on Instagram for a reason, and it's so that other people can reach out to me. And I have been known to help perfect strangers with their paperwork for SSDI. I've taken strangers to their independent medical exam for the state, you know, for their disability. Like I'm that person. That's what I do. And I do it because other people should have help if they're lost. They should understand these are murky waters. They're hard to navigate. So whatever resources that you can count upon, take advantage of it. Like I am always open to help other people. One time I had a t-shirt on that said "Made Strong," like the M and the S were like orange. And I was at this diner and this guy comes up to me, he was working there, and he goes, "Is that like MS?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh my God, my wife was just diagnosed." And then I ended up having a relationship with him and his wife.
You never know.
Yeah. I mean, I gave him all my information. I'm like, call me, text me, email me, do whatever here. I'll help you with anything you need, you know, because that's part of my purpose. You know, I've been advocating for MS since I was diagnosed. I've been a patient advocate speaker, a keynote speaker, a motivational speaker at many different events. I went to the national convention for MS, the MS Society. I spoke at one of the breakout groups. Like, I've been everywhere, all over the place, speaking about MS. And I have no problem doing it with a perfect stranger, helping them to get what they need. I know what to do. I know the questions to ask. Even if it's not MS and somebody's having a medical issue, I can help you because I know what to ask. I know how to ask front of doctors. Doctors don't take crap. When I'm in the room, they answer the questions. Would they do that for if I went with a 22-year-old student of mine? No.
Mm-hmm.
If he was alone, no. Wouldn't get the same answers. But with me there, we get more answers because I know the questions to ask. So it's really just being informed and also understanding that it's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. Now there are so many treatments for MS. I mean, compared to 4 when I first started with it, I mean, and all were self-injections. And everybody's, oh, I don't know how you could do that. You have to give yourself a shot. Well, yeah, well, oh, I can never do that. And I'm like, you could. If you had to, you would. I'm telling you, you would. I still do now for diabetes. It's no big deal. It's really not a big deal. You do it because you have to. It's do its thing. Regardless of what medication you're on, you won't know if you would have progressed faster without the medication or not. But are you willing to take that chance? Because I'm not.
Right. Wonderful words, Renee. I really, really appreciate your time today. I hope everyone who was able to join us today, I hope you guys learned something. If you are part of the MS community and know that there is hope, you know, it is. I know I've said this like 3 times this week from whatever, but it's definitely a marathon. This is not a strength. I mean, a strength, a sprint. I told you it's been a wacky day. So it's a marathon, people, not a sprint. So
that's so true.
You know, so you just take each day as you need to take it and fight like hell. And, you know, hopefully this too shall pass, but like in a different mind thought of that. I won't get into to break that little statement down, but you'll get through this, you know, one day at a time. So I want to thank
you'll realize the gifts that you got as a result, because there are gifts that happen.
Exactly, you know. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. For those who will hit us up later. Again, all of the replays from now on will be on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe. Now I get when people say that. Subscribe. I got to keep reminding people. And you can get the details on my bio page. It gives you the link. As today, I'm giving away a little special limited gift. I'm going to have it up until tomorrow. If you subscribe, and I'm looking at the numbers because our numbers is low. Okay, so I'll put 2 and 2 together. You'll get a downloadable in terms of chronic fitness. What is it? And it's like my play on with exercise, because I am a personal trainer. So it's a pleasure. Thank you again. And I hope to see you in person real soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
So nice talking to you. Thank you.